believe we're up and good. We are. Alright, so again with Umineko, we left off. Battle between Lambda Delta and Burn Castle ended with Lambda Delta being completely destroyed by Aurora. Followed shortly by Angie defying the red truth, not acknowledging it, and becoming the Witch of Resurrection of sorts. I don't think it's entirely official yet, but that's what she's been doing. And so, right after all that, we're left with this message. So, here we go. A quiet applause greeted them. Featherin, their witness, had acknowledged their victory and was clapping for them. Splendidly done, Lady Angie Beatrice. In celebration of this miracle, I bestow upon you the title of Lady. The tale you weaved was quite entertaining. There is no need to be so hostile. I am congratulating you. Featherin smiled serenely. Then the cat overlords broke their positions in their constellation and lined up behind her. It was clear that this is not only a peaceful action, but part of a solemn ceremony. You have defeated my Miko, and I thank you for sparing her life. As you can see, she was my cute pet cat, who never ceased to save me from boredom. If she died, boredom would overcome me as well. The true strength of this being, who referred to Burncastle as a pet cat, had already been made clear during her fight with Lambda Delta. The world. Even so, Angie spoke. I won't forgive you for killing Lambda Delta. Hi, that doesn't sound like the words of a Witch of Resurrection. Can you not revive her whenever you wish? Huh? I can revive her? It's okay. I'm sure that Lady Lambda Delta has been revived somewhere, thanks to your power. There's no need to worry. Indeed. She has already been moved to the audience seating I prepared for her. Do not fear. I shall take good care of her. Really? That's wonderful. Angie finally relaxed and let the tension leave her whole body. Well now, Battler, you are now the sole game master of your final game. True. That cat of yours looks like she's out of the running. Perhaps you should carry on with the final ceremony of your game. My Miko is as forgetful as a cat, but she can sometimes be as persistent as one. I suggest getting it over with quickly. Yeah. Okay. I'll follow your advice then. I shall be your witness and record a detailed account of it all. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. We're at the final ceremony. You think? It's hard to tell. The final ceremony. So, even this game is about to end. Battler nodded silently. Then he stepped out from the crowd and motioned for Angie to follow him. As Angie passed by each member of the Ishimiya family, they cheered her on, giving her words of encouragement. Battler took out the golden key and handed it to Angie. It now had the same glint it had possessed when he had first given it to her. Then, two doors appeared out of thin air on either side of them. They had a stately design, making the importance of this choice clear. Am I supposed to pick one without any hints? Of course not. I'll give you a hint. By now, it should be an easy puzzle. A simple puzzle with two answers. And you'll choose your answer by opening one of the doors. I see. Okay. So, this is a continuation of that Halloween party. I fell asleep during that party, didn't I? I'm glad to finally wrap that up properly. Beato, come forward. After all, you fell asleep before you got to my puzzle. I'm glad I now have a chance to tell it. The choice, huh? Sorry about that. It sounds like it'll be pretty tough. You'll be fine, Angie. I wonder about that. Prepare yourself. It's a tough one. Calm down, Angie. It's an easy puzzle. Don't you remember the first thing your brother told you? About how to choose the best possible option? No? Battler, you're giving too many hints. This is the triumphant return of Lady Angie, Witch of the Future. All you have to do is watch over her. True. Then I'll hand it over to Beato. I'm counting on you. Indeed. Then let us begin. Okay. Angie gulped, then stared up at the witch's face. The witch held out her left hand, bringing it close to Angie's face. Then she slowly spread her fingers. Look carefully at my palm. I'm not hiding anything, correct? Yeah. There's nothing there. Watch closely. I'll make a fist, and then stretch out my index finger. She stretched out her index finger and held it right in front of Angie's eyes. Watch the tip of my finger closely. Ready? It'll be fast. The witch rapidly lifted her index finger high into the air, pointing at the heavens. And just as Angie looked up to see the finger raised high, it swung down as though trying to dodge her gaze. In that manner, up, down, left, right, and left again. Angie, feeling as though she'd lose if she couldn't keep up with the fingertip, swung her face this way and that, looking serious. The witch's hand moved faster and faster. Angie didn't lose track of it. Then, after the high-pointing finger was swung down all of a sudden, the index finger curled up again, and the hand was held in a simple fist. You ready? I'm going to open my hand. The witch slowly opened her right fist. And there was a cutely wrapped candy. Got it? Yeah. Was this a trick or magic? That is my puzzle for you. Go ahead, Angie. Give your answer. Is this a trick or magic? I know what the answer is. This is a bizarre question. The choice, huh? Ave. Can't save for this one. But I'm not too far back with my last one. The answer is blatantly a trick. Hello, Nightmare. 822. Hello, hello. You caught us just at the final question. 2 different endings. All right. Well, we'll take a trip down both of them, I guess. Gonna go with this one. If your answer is magic, open this door. If it's a trick, then open that door. I had already decided upon my answer. This is my answer. I walked over the door that represented the answer I had chosen. Then I put the golden key into the keyhole and turned to face everyone. The Ushumiya eagle never looks back. That's right. Sorry. I gripped the key tightly and twisted. Then the key in the door flashed brilliantly and slowly faded away. Beyond the door was a strangely colored space. If I step into this, I'll reach the future I chose. Before taking that single step, I spoke without turning back. The Ushumiya eagle never turns back, so I won't turn around, but I'll say this. Thank you, everyone. But this isn't goodbye. I'll always be with you all. Yeah, you won't turn back, but we'll always be standing behind you. That's not what I mean. Despite it all, I still believe. I'm positive that everyone will come back. Angie. That is good. Angie. I look forward to the day when we all meet again. Angie, my adorable granddaughter. We may be away for some time. Here, don't forget this. It's your prize from the quiz party. A gold butterfly flew over my shoulder, landed on my palm, and turned into a Beatrice doll. This was lying next to me when I woke up on the sofa, wasn't it? This was my prize. Take it back to the future with you, and treasure it. Thanks, everyone. I took a step forward into the future. I won't say goodbye. So, see you later. We'll always be together. A strong wind blew through my hair. My nose was filled with the smell of the sea. I must have been standing still for a very long time. This is a point cutting through the sea. I was standing on the bow of a boat. I was still holding that thing. Lady, If you stand around there too long, you'll freeze. It's sunny out. What are you talking about? Maxa. So, this is... Captain Kawabata's face peered out at her. You can see it now. And that's the old Ushimiya family dog. Ooh, not even a trace of it left. I see. So I've come back here. It's been a really long daydream. No, a long and windy side trip. No matter what sort of tales are woven or written about the past, they have nothing to do with my tale of the future. I swore to live life looking only at the future, without turning back. A swearing that has a purpose, and this hasn't all been just a daydream. And besides, I've brought many things back with me from that long side trip. Some of those are even immediately useful. But yeah, this isn't going to do me much good. I threw a Beatrice doll into the ocean. What was that? My regrets. I've shed my old shell. So, with old Rakanjima right in front of you, you're having a change of heart? That's not what I meant. I mean, I've had enough of being human. I won't waste that long journey. I now have a new way to live. And that isn't as the human called Ushimiya Anji. I am reborn. Captain, sorry, but would you mind leaving for a second? Sure, whatever you say. Captain Kawabata went down into the driver area. What is it, lady? Why the troubled face? I feel like taking a step into a new life. You already have. True. If I could sell off all the Ushimiya family's wealth that's burdening me, maybe donating it to some charity, that would be a huge relief. And then I'd finally be able to escape from the shell called Ushimiya Anji. It seems a waste of all that money. You could do anything you wanted with it. Who cares? My point is that I don't need it. That may be true. And again, not everything that you'd be selling off belongs to you exclusively. For example, are you talking about the Ushimiya Group's stock? That's right. They may be a little more than scraps of paper to you, but doing something like that could shatter the whole company. I don't think my boss could bear to have that happen. Yeah, I know. It's like that for the Sumaderas and President Okunogi alike. There are plenty of people who are in a tough spot because I can do as I please. There's no doubt that you're a VIP, Anji-san. Wouldn't it be better to chill out and hide away for now, and just hold off on doing anything flashy? What would be the fastest and most convenient way to prevent this VIP from doing as she pleases, I wonder? Hey, that's a good question. Well, we could break out the drinks, tell each other our deepest secrets, and... anyone could guess that the final destination of my journey is Rakanjima. And, right now, Rakanjima is completely uninhabited. There's no one there. No one to see or to hear. This is the perfect day for a closed room. Oh, yeah, that may be true. The Sumadera family is chasing me. They even managed to barge into President Okanogi's building with perfect timing. Someone leaked the fact that I was there. Are you saying my boss sold you out? Why would he give you a bodyguard? Since he doesn't know what sort of whims I'm going to act on, President Okanogi wants to have both the Sumadera family and me indebted to him. That way, he can sell information about me, let me slip away by a hair, and keep track of my whereabouts, putting both me and the Sumadera family in his debt, while keeping a trump card in his hand. You're definitely overthinking things there. Maxa wore a forced smile, trying to smooth things over. We can be sure that the Sumadera family is chasing me. My actions are being intentionally leaked to them. Then we'll bump into each other on Rakunjima. I will be killed by them. After that, you will kill the Sumadera hitman. And President Okanogi will have a trump card to use in negotiations with the Sumaderas. If I die, the Ishimiya group will be stable for the time being. Plus, they'll be able to draw the line with the Sumadera family. On the other side, the Sumadera family itself will be able to neatly do away with Aunt Kasumi, the leader of their over-enthusiastic radical faction. Both sides will finish their bargaining with a draw, and everyone will be happy. That's a pretty interesting story you thought up there. And that golf bag you brought with you, I've had a look at what's inside. Are you planning to start a war or something with all those guns? But it had a sniper rifle in it. Would a bodyguard who's always by my side really need something like that? Well, you never know what might happen. A bit, yes. That's not even, that's just this one chapter here. You've missed all the magic. Literally. Why would a bodyguard, who works best when traveling light, choose to abandon his position for a whole day to get a gun like that, and right before we leave for Rakunjima? Lady, you're overthinking this, okay? When I reach Rakunjima, you'll suggest that I go visit the place they died or something, getting me on my own. That's the bait. The bait to lure in Sumadera Kasumi and the others waiting for me on Rakunjima. After that, you'll use that ridiculously huge gun to round them up. The end. Well, what's wrong with rounding them up? Isn't that what a guard's supposed to do? In addition to a cutting-edge sniper rifle, we also had a modern German submachine gun. Those are really handy. No matter how many people the Sumaderas have, I can clean them all up, no trouble. There was one more. A handgun. Even though the sniper rifle and the submachine gun were the best and the newest models, the handgun alone was beat up and old-fashioned. See? And you pulled the handgun out and pointed it at Amakusu. Cut it out. This isn't funny. A handgun is something you're always supposed to have on your person, right? So, why would you go get a second handgun, and such an unusually old one? One theory can explain this. What if it's the same kind of gun Sumadera Kasumi and the others are using? This is a Tokarev, a gun once used by the Soviet military, and which has gotten pretty popular in the Japanese underground. It's exactly the sort of weapon Sumaderas might be using. Also, having Sumadera Kasumi die would be convenient for the Sumadera family as well. They could have leaked, exchanged information on their end as well. Therefore, it's possible that you knew beforehand that the Sumadera hitmen would be using Tokarevs. Maxa was speechless. Was he speechless because this was all true? or because he was stunned by the determination with which Angie pointed that gun at him. The plan that you... No. The plan that all of you made together. It was to use me as bait to lure Sumidera Kasumi to an uninhabited island, setting it up so that both sides appear to finish each other off, and settling everything nice and neat for both President Okanogi and the Sumidera family. A single line of cold sweat dripped down Amakusa's forehead. With the wind whipping through her hair, Angie spoke coldly. Just by the presence of this handgun, see how far Ushimi Angie's reasoning has taken her. What do you think, everyone? You haven't taken the safety off. I know. Tokarevs don't have a safety. Amakusa tried to dive behind cover, but he couldn't outrun a bullet. And it shot into his gut, making him double over in pain. Angie, who knew that he had a gun hidden in his pocket, then eliminated his chances of a counterattack. Double tap. Blood spurted from Amakusa's forehead, and he did not close his eyes again. There is a perfect, certain way to confirm someone's death without a doctor, and it's the easiest one in the world. You... Kawabata stuck his head out, and his face went pale when he saw the gruesome scene on the deck. This time, Angie pointed the barrel of the gun at his forehead. Before we left, you said you needed a bit more time to get the boat ready. However, if you've been bought, then we can say for sure that you were buying time so that Sumidera Kasumi could set up her ambush on Rockinjima. I have no idea what you're talking about. You're a cat box, inside of which is a Kawabata who was bought and betrayed me, and a Kawabata who hasn't betrayed me. Now then, how can I kill the one who has betrayed me? Stop! Don't shoot! I just have to shoot the whole cat box to death. It's cold but true. The boat's owner slumped over backwards and fell. Double tap. Then, with a second bullet, she performed a perfect examination of his corpse. She had survived. Surely, she had survived the web-like conspiracy that had been wrapped around her so cleverly. Andy returned to the bow of the boat, faced the strong winds head-on, and peered into the future in front of her. The boat, whose owner was gone, headed towards the endless horizon, on and on in a straight line. She prayed that the truth she truly desired to reach lay before her. Then, she heard the sound of clapping. The sound of clapping on a boat where Amakusa and the captain were no more. However, Angie didn't look surprised. She calmly and slowly turned around. Splendid reasoning, Comrade Angie, my fellow witch of truth, Angie Beatrice. Oh, you're here, Erika. Anytime someone wants to expose the truth, you'll find me there. Oh, shit. Hey, Erika. What? The boat had already passed by Rockinjima. The island's silhouette was now off in the distance. The boat headed towards the endless horizon, continuing on its endless journey. The new Witch of Truth announced the beginning of this endless journey to her fellow witch. I'll carve out my future in my own way. Sounds splendid. At the end, will there be a truth for me to find? Just what sort of truth could you be looking for after all this? You're right. I know what the truth isn't. I know that the truth isn't worth anything. And there's one more thing I figured out. What's that? That bewildered look on Amakusa's face when his scheme was exposed. That was pretty good. Get the... Oh, made a monster, huh? And that would be, Umineko when they cry. When the seagulls cry. Hey. Hey. But yeah, I'll go back and pick the other ending and see what it is. But for the most part, that does align with most of my beliefs. Erica's character, not really, but from the logical aspect, you can confirm somebody's death by killing them yourself and then confirming it yourself. No room for error, no room for misinterpretation. It is. Probably sucked up. But yeah, I doubt most people would agree with going with an Erica ending. That's goes against most the rest of the game, really. Well, yes, no. Technically, the whole game was about combating magic. I can explain it with humans and tricks, right? That was the entirety of the game. Then somewhere halfway through, probably at the start of Battler games, magic started becoming the thing to push for. And it's longer too, huh? Alright, well, we'll take a look at it just a moment. Same portrait, huh? Right, bear with me. I'm going to skip mode. There it is. I'll put a save here, just to mark the occasion, I guess. And the magic trick. Well, now, was this magic or a trick? Well, considering we just technically kind of rewound time, and that's not something most humans can do, it's obviously magic. If your answer is magic, open this door. If it's a trick, then open that door. I had already decided upon my answer. You can honestly call me whatever you want. But my name is Corey. I work with looking for craftman, flannel person, whatever. I'm fine with anything, as long as I know you're talking about me. That's the only requirement. And yeah, if you're wondering, I looking for craft name was because I started doing a lot of crafts. The current one is painting. but sewing, chainmail, jewelry, drawing, sculpting, yada yada. Somewhere along the line, I got roped into this crazy story. It's taken up a year of my life, man. But still, Kory, Kory. But again, it's call me whatever, as long as I know it's me. Nobody ever spells it right the first time. They just don't. Too many other common ones in place. Oh, alright, cool. Yeah, you were a unfamiliar name, so pardon me for not recognizing it. Big old group came in. But welcome back. No problem. But thank you. Anyway, back to... Feel free to ask any questions or whatever. We go on tangents all the time. But without further ado, I'm going to continue the story. This is my answer. I walked over to the door that represented the answer I had chosen. Then I put the golden key into the keyhole and turned to face everyone. Yusumi Eagle never looks back. That's right. Sorry. I gripped the key tightly and twisted. Then the key in the door flashed brilliantly and slowly faded away. Beyond the door was a strangely colored space. If I stepped into this, I'll reach the future I chose. Before taking that single step, I spoke without turning back. The Yusumi Eagle never turns back, so I won't turn around. But I'll say this. Thank you, everyone. But this isn't goodbye. I'll always be with you all. Yeah. You won't turn back, but we'll always be standing behind you. That's not what I mean. Despite it all, I still believe, I'm positive, that everyone will come back. Angie. That is good. Angie. I look forward to the day when we all meet again. Angie, my adorable granddaughter. We may be away for some time. Here, don't forget this. It's your prize from that quiz party. I might make that doll one day. Maybe. We'll see. A gold butterfly flew over my shoulder, landed on my palm, and turned into a Beatrice doll. This was lying next to me when I woke up on the sofa, wasn't it? This was my prize. Take it back to the future with you, and treasure it. Thanks, everyone. I took a step forward into the future. I won't say goodbye, so see you later. We'll always be together. Side tangent. That's similar to the one thing that I say. I never know when I'll see somebody else again, so it's always see you later. The wind brushed against my cheek. I slowly opened my shut eyes. I must have had my eyes closed for a very long time. Even the sparkles below me seemed blindingly bright. It was a strange world with a sea of stars beneath me. The wind was cold. However, it told me that I had returned to reality. I was standing with one foot outstretched over that starry sea. How long have I been here? Time has probably been stopped for me ever since Byrne lured me forward when I was about to take that step off the edge. I slowly pulled my foot back in. Then I leaned against the fence and sat down. The sky was far away, but so was the ground. This whole time I've been in this sad place, so far from both of those worlds. I can't go to the sky. In that case, I'll have to return to my world. And the elevator is probably the way to go. I've done enough skydiving. Yeah, there really is no chance. No chance of me jumping down from here and surviving by some miracle. Some which of miracles have already guaranteed with certainty that such a miracle won't occur, after all. And then I finally noticed them. It was the guards President Okanogi had assigned to me. They were approaching the fence with forced smiles and sweat dripping down their faces, trying not to startle me. That's right. I gave these guys the slip before jumping off, didn't I? Did you think I was going to jump? Well, it's, Sorry. If I jumped, I guess you'd really catch it from Okanogi-san. Angie-san, it's dangerous there. Let's wrap. Please come back to this side. Let me stay here a bit longer. It's okay. I won't get any sudden ideas. Maybe you have a cell phone? Yes? I want to talk to Okanogi-san about something. Would you mind calling him? The guards looked at each other, then rushed to take out their cell phones. They were worried that I might get annoyed and jump off, leaving them to take the blame. The president has picked up. Here. Thanks. Hello. Okanogi-san? Yeah. Sorry for calling all of a sudden. No, it's excellent news. A bit of an early Christmas present. I'm giving all of the Ushimiya group to you. That's right. In exchange, I have a few things I want. As she gazed down at the sea of stars spread out on the ground below her, Angie spoke. She spoke of how she would live from now on. Ushimiya Angie's strange and mysterious adventure ends here. But my life will continue. After all, there's already something for me to do. I am Angie Beatrice, witch of marriage sociale. Ushimiya Angie just fell from here and died. I am the witch, Angie. I'll live as a witch. You said it was long. That's really short, man. And so, your game ends. As Angie opened the door and vanished from sight, the residents of the Golden Land disappeared as well. Afterwards, only Battler could still be seen. He had now done everything he could for Angie. Close the door. Wasn't there some rule to be followed when closing this door? Yes, that's right. The rule said that you needed 2 people to close it. Hey, Aunt Eva. I told you to stop talking to me like I'm an old lady. Well, you are. Kind of. I'm not sure. The two of them stood to the left and right of the door that Angie had vanished through. Angie, find happiness in your future. After all, we'll always be with you. Then the two of them held their hands out in front of them. As they did, a door popped into existence and closed. Then the door itself faded away. And now, we have completed our role. Yeah. This marks the end of the piece's purpose. You've worked hard, both of you. And with this, I shall clean up your game board and put it away. Slowly, the world melted. At a glance, it looked as though the city of books was starting to fall apart. But that wasn't it. Oh yeah, the parties, right. But that wasn't it. Battler and Eva's world was being cut off from the city of books. The world broke apart bit by bit, and the ceiling would probably fall in soon. This is goodbye, Battler-kun. Yeah. See you later. And someday, I'll leave Angie in your hands, and Tiva. At least at the end, try calling me Eva and Nason, would you? That would still be weird. See you later, Erika. Somewhere, someday. Both Angie and I were witches of truth. So, just what was the difference between us? Yeah. What could it be? I was a witch who endured and withstood the truth. But I turned my back on that truth. However, even after she learned the truth, she continued to believe in her own truth. If she was a true witch of truth, then what kind of witch was I? That's right. You aren't a witch. After all, you're the detective. Get the... I'd forgot. We'll meet again someday. Wherever there's a crime, the detective's sure to be there, right? Yes. When another crime occurs in the Ushimiya family, I promise to appear. So long, great detective. So long, my rival. I look forward to the day when the two of us can cross blades again. Those were the final words the two ever spoke to each other. A terrible roar and a cloud of dust blew by, covering everything. And then, everything vanished. Nothing remained. Battler and Eva were both gone. The city of books was wrapped in silence. It's all over. Yes. Great Lady Aurora. Take care of my pet cat. Now, I shall go too. There are some things that must be cleaned up in this world as well. When Hachijo made her announcement, everyone fell silent, thinking they had misheard her. Before too long, though, the crowd exploded with a shower of questions about what she meant by this. That's too cruel! You can't do that after dragging us along this far! Madam Hachijo, we have come from far and wide to see it, yes? How can you do this now? I will say it again. I've changed my mind. Ushiromiya Eva's diary will not be made public. It's a fraud. This is all a fraud. Was it really Ushiromiya Eva's diary? Are you sure it wasn't a fabrication you created? You think you can get away with something like this? Show us the book. Children of men can be so hideous. Neither you nor I have the right to read what lies in there. However, now that I think of it, this has been quite an entertaining show. Children of men who disturb the sleep of the dead and spread rumors for their own entertainment can be quite amusing at times like this. Let's go, bird. I have had my share of entertainment for the night. A black cat jumped on Hachijo's shoulder, and she disappeared off to the side of the stage, the book of the single truth in her arms. Only the angry yells of the massive crowd remained. And so, the people began to lose interest in Ushiromiya Eva's diary, doubting whether it had even been truly existed. Though the weekly magazines were in an uproar over the scam Hachijo Toya had pulled, some began to openly wonder if the Rokkenjima mystery itself was an indiscreet desecration of the dead. I don't think a little thing like this will allow Rokkenjima to rest in peace. However, it did create an atmosphere where people were slightly more hesitant to openly show interest in the Rokkenjima mystery. An unopened cat box is eternal. Rokkenjima will probably never find peace. However, even so, compared to how it was before, life will surely be easier. Because, as the years pass, the dust will slowly pile up on it, where it lies in the depths of oblivion. At the bottom of the deep sea known as the depths of oblivion, the cat box of the witches will probably get slowly buried as the years pass. Feathern threw a single golden rose into that sea, an offering to let the cat box rest in peace. With the tale of that golden rose, let us mark the end of this long story. In the darkness, there was a massive roar and an earthquake. When it passed, dawn began to rise over the endless night. The third day, October 6th, 1986. Dawn of the third day. Where am I? We're in the wreckage of an old submarine base. Don't you remember? That's where it all started. The place where we first met, 2 generations ago. Sounds pretty romantic if you put it that way. Battler and Beato could be seen in the ruins of Rokkenjima's underground submarine base. The cave's mouth opened to the sea, and the gentle sound of the waves drifted in along with the cries of the seagulls. It seemed that the typhoon, which had closed off the island for 2 days, had finally gotten bored and gone away. Beato went down to the shore and lifted up a large sheet. Beneath it was a motorboat. Of course, it wasn't from the time of the war. It was modern. Pile this up on the boat. Be careful, it's heavy. Wow! This is a gold ingot. I thought they all got buried. I thought something like this might happen, so I snuck this one out beforehand. The single heavy gold ingot was dropped into the boat. I'm not sure how much this is worth by itself, but it must be quite a lot. Have you ever driven a motorboat before? You're joking, right? It's easy. I'll teach you. Are we gonna fall? She wasn't used to this, but after several mistakes, Beato finally got the engine started. If you go out that way and hop from island to island, you'll see Najima before too long. Then you can just land on a sandy beach. Aren't you coming? I cannot. I am the master of the Golden Land. I cannot leave this place. What's to be gained from staying? What's to be gained from going? Let's live. I cannot. I have already committed countless sins in countless worlds. The number of lives I have taken, the number of sins I have committed, is far too great. But you haven't committed any sins in our world. No, that is not true. Go. Go while I'm still in a good mood. Otherwise, I may seal the island in a storm again. Battler suddenly spun around. When Beato turned around to see what was going on, her body was suddenly lifted into the air. Then, I'll take you back as a souvenir from the Golden Land. Let go. This isn't safe. Come on, don't freak out. Listen carefully, Beatrice. What? Hey, sirs. I'm going to kidnap you. But as Battler quietly gazed at her with serious eyes, Beato was lost for words. If you've sinned, then I've sinned as well for making you do it. So, let's carry your cross together. Battler. Really? Do share. As long as I live, I'll carry your cross. Let's leave the Golden Land. You and me. Together. Beato was now too shocked to say anything at all. Then, tears poured from her eyes and she covered her face. Battler gently set her down on the boat. He undid the mooring ropes. Now there was no longer anything tying this boat to the island. Let's go. Controlling the boat as Beato had taught him, Battler slowly guided it out. Might have to try that trick next time. When they passed out of the dimly lit cavern, they were immediately struck by the bright rays of the sun and surrounded by a crowd of white seagulls. As the seagulls flew this way and that, the feathers they dropped in the water seemed to celebrate the boat's departure. The brilliant sunlight told them that they were now free of the island's curse. The sky, now freed from the seal of the typhoon, seemed too bright to be real. Feeling hot, Battler took off his jacket. It was swept away by the wind and danced through the sky. However, instead of panicking, Battler just smiled as he watched it go. Beato also watched it go. No, she watched the island go. Rockinjima and the Golden Land she had spent 1,000 years in. Will I be able to live? You will. You won't have a magical butler, but there's all sorts of useful stuff out there. There's no end to the things you couldn't find on Rockinjima. I'll show you what the world's like. Will I be able to live? Beato repeated the same words again. Battler knew what she meant. However, no matter what answer he gave, he wouldn't be able to resolve her problem now. However, there was a way to resolve it. Time and the heart. Little by little, bit by bit. Like a chain being cut by falling drops of water, he would have to sever the curse of the island gradually, over a long period of time. It might take a long, long time. However, someday, she will be free. That's what I believe. I am a sinful witch who toyed with hundreds of deaths on that island. Your world is too brilliant for me. No, you will live. I answered immediately and forcefully. If you think you need to atone for hundreds of sins, then keep on living and living. Live as hard as you can, with everything you've got. That's the only way you can atone. Is that truly the only way to atone for my sins? That's right. And you'll definitely be able to do it someday. Trust me. Battler. Come on. Don't look at me with those teary eyes. It's embarrassing. Forgive me. Then at the very least, would you close your eyes? Why should I? Hey, your face is pretty close. Foolish man. You ought to be cursed for taking the witch away from the Golden Land. That's why you must close your eyes. It's embarrassing for me too. As soon as Battler shut his eyes, soft lips covered his. Then they slowly drew back. He tried to open his eyes, but just got slapped. No. I told you not to look at my face. Come on. What's there to lose? You have no delicacy. Don't open it. Not yet. Why? Because I want to kiss you again. The next kiss was on his earlobe. Quit it. Now this is getting really embarrassing. He knew he'd get hit again if he opened his eyes, so he resisted with his eyes still shut. Then, after sighing and tickling his ear, Beato spoke in her usual cheerful, bullying voice. Sorry, Battler. I'm a terrible, atrocious witch. Yeah, I know. You're an evil, cruel witch. And so, I cannot atone for my sins. After all, I'm the sort of witch who can cackle over hundreds of deaths. Really something. You know that? But she wouldn't be you otherwise. He accidentally opened his eyes. And when he did, the witch was nowhere to be seen. The Golden Witch had vanished, like a dream or an illusion. And so had the single ingot they had carried with them. Battler jumped straight in the ocean, and so he made it in time. The witch looked up at Battler, a faint smile on her face. He couldn't hear any words, and yet he heard clearly. Didn't I tell you, Battler? I'm an atrocious witch, so I cannot atone for my sins. I cannot live. Battler desperately spoke back, however his words only floated out of his mouth as bubbles. As she sank into the inky blackness, Battler chased her with all his strength. And then his hand reached her. Battler, you fool. Even though you got off the island alive, will you throw that away? I won't let go of you. It pleases me to hear you say that. However, I am an illusion, and you are a human. We have different worlds to go back to. I will return to illusions. You should return to your world. All around them it was getting darker and darker. The pressure increased and their heads and ears began to throb. And then, at last, their fingers separated. At once, Battler rose towards the world of light. The witch sank towards the world of darkness. The witch saw Battler's body rise towards the shining surface. So long, Battler. And thank you. When she saw Battler's body become a speck and disappear towards the world of light, the witch slowly closed her eyes. Then she felt something, but that was impossible. After all, Battler had already disappeared, and yet this was Battler. Battler would have chased the witch here. Do you think I'll let you get away? You're my golden witch. Battler, you fool. You fool. If you intend to fall into this abyss, I'll fall with you. It's a world of nothingness. We'll disappear together. But until the very last moment, you will be mine. The two hugged each other tightly. Fate didn't try to tear them apart again. And so the two became one and sank into the abyss together. Then, in that pitch-black world where nothing could be seen, something sparkled, a warm, golden sparkle. It was a golden rose. It floated down into a world covered with innocent white sand. Half buried in that sand was a small box. It was Beatrice's cat box, which rested in peace here at the ocean floor. The golden rose drifted down to rest on top of it. It was a story of the deep ocean depths. A small, almost trivial tale of the dark and inky blackness, where rests a faintly glowing rose of gold. What will you turn into? Is this the end? Yeah, this is the end, man. We're going back and looking at the second ending, which is the true ending, or some such. Apparently I chose wrong, or poorly. 1998. But that was hard to read. That was going too fast, man. A black luxury car was parked at the rear entrance of the skyscraper. Men wearing suits were packing a heavy-looking attaché case into its trunk. Let me handle all the rest. We'll take care of all the complicated details. I'm counting on you. Aunt Eva trusted you more than anyone, so I'm sure she's glad this is all in your hands now. Out of the building came Angie and President Okanogi. Angie's expression was peaceful. It was hard to imagine that this was the same person who had always looked so dark in Okanogi's eyes. In her later years, the company president was very ill. I imagine that she said some fairly harsh things to you, but I don't believe she truly meant them. I know. Even I said things I shouldn't have on my bad days. You've changed. You think so? I thought you'd never forgive the president as long as you lived. And you're the one who taught me, Okanogi-san. I did? Did I say something? Without love, the truth cannot be seen. Did I really say something that pretentious? It's been a long journey. It really has been a long journey, all just to understand what you told me that day. Of course, Okanogi understood. He understood that, in her heart, this had been a long and profound journey. Contact me when you decide on a new home and account. I won't let you want for anything. Any problems with the Sumadera family? Leave that to me. We have your power of attorney as our rallying point. Thanks to that, the Ushimiya group is a united front. Because of what you did, Angie-chan, the business built by the former president has been protected. I truly believe she'd be joyful at your decision. I'm just pushing all the hard stuff on you. When the great President Ushimiya Eva passed away, the Ushimiya group was shaken. There was no clear successor, so the group had been in danger of splitting. After that, everyone had been waiting to hear what Angie would say, since she had inherited a large portion of the group's stock. However, Angie had shown no interest in any of this, and had gone around talking about things like selling all their assets and donating everything to some charity, which had shaken the group even further. There had even been a chance that an outsider, such as the Sumidera family, would interfere and destroy the Ushimiya group. As disturbing as it may seem, some had wished for the source of all this trouble, Angie, to disappear. However, Angie had undergone a change of heart, deciding to do what was best for the Ushimiya group that Eva had built up, and the worst-case scenario had been avoided. Okanogi had been named as Angie's legal guardian. By simply giving him her trust, Angie now had in him the most reliable ally possible. Okanogi himself had certain plans he could carry out based on the knowledge that Angie trusted him. Okanogi, who had carried great responsibility in the Ushimiya group thanks to his position as Eva's closest confidant, was the most natural choice to be Eva's successor for the top spot. And thanks in part to his ability, everything had now been wrapped up smoothly. This way, the Ushimiya group was secure. The Ushimiya group had been the only thing still tied to the Ushimiya name other than Angie herself, so she might have thought of it as her final link to her family. You know, you're free to come back anytime you want. We have a chair set aside just for you. Thanks. Just knowing I have a place to go back to means I can set off on my journey in peace. And what are you going to do from now on? I'm going to become an author. An author? To write novels? It doesn't matter what. Could be novels or picture books. If I have any skill at drawing, maybe I'll do a manga. What I do doesn't matter, as long as I can share my heart with someone. Sounds like you set a noble task for yourself. I'll be praying for your success. Thanks. If I manage to publish a book, I'll send you a copy. I look forward to it. The car's trunk was closed with a clunk. Apparently, all of her luggage had been loaded. Oh, yes. Allow me to introduce you to the driver. He's a protege of mine. He's trustworthy, and you can rely on him for anything. Oh, and he worked as a guard for the old president for many years, so you might recognize him. As long as it isn't Amakusa. The man walking out of the driver's seat sneezed. Oh, that hurts, lady. Amakusa, what the hell have you done to her? Well, he was always the most flippant of Antiva's guards. I was helping for pretty much anyone else. But he was also the one closest to you, wasn't he? Well, at least listening to him talk can be pretty entertaining. The boss assigned me to be his contact with you. If you ever get into any sort of trouble, just let me know. And what if I ask you to go buy me toilet paper? Then I'll pick up some tampons too while I'm out. See? The guy's a creep. Oh, Kanoli, you fod. I got into the back seat. Stay well, Angie-chan. I guess this is the last time anyone will call me by that name. Let me know when you've decided on a new one. Okanogi patted the roof of the car. At that signal, Amakusa honked the horn and removed the handbrake. So, until you've decided on a new name, I guess I'll be calling you Lady. That's fine for now. Okay. Where are we going? North? South? Any recommendations? Why don't we try leaving the main island? I'd suggest Hokkaido. Huge meadows, giant clouds, the novelist writing stories in a long cabin. Sounds awesome. Great. Let's head south. I was planning to do the opposite of whatever you said anyway. That's pretty harsh. I'd like to go someplace hot. A town with a view of the sea. Angie closed her eyes. Things had been pretty crazy lately, and she was tired. Understood. By the time you open your eyes, we'll be in an unfamiliar land. But it'll be a warm town with a view of the sea. Can't wait to see what you choose. I'm driving on the wrong side of the road, man. The car got onto the freeway. It was surrounded by the great river of cars heading east and west. By now, no one could tell which of those points was the car she rode in. Starting today, Izumi Angie would change her name and live in a new climate. Changing her name didn't mean that she had given up on being Angie. This was Angie Beatrice's mission. I am Angie Beatrice, the golden and endless witch of resurrection, a witch of marriage sorcière, the final witch who is still alive in the future called 1998. Umineko no Nakokoto Nijiru, Nocturne of Truths and Illusions. Additional new features. The Golden Witch has prepared a gift for you in commemoration of your stay. You can find these new features on the title screen. Sweet. Hey, sunset. Not a bad one. Alright, so, episode 8, Tea Party. Let's see if we can cram this in 40 minutes, or if it's going to be an extended one. The majestic witch of theater going, drama, and spectating set down her pen, looked at the ceiling, and sighed deeply. The desk was covered with a scattered mountain of paper, covered with writing. Words were packed onto the pages in a thin, high information density language that only the great ones could read. Each letter of this language carried the same amount of information as several books in the human world. These letters filled every inch of this huge pile of paper. Surely she had written out every little detail of some world. Yes, I have written it all. Though, to be accurate, I have not truly written it all. She stood up, sat down in her favorite rocking chair, and rocked peacefully for a while. How far must one write before they can say they've written it all? That is what has bothered me in all my years of writing. The adventures of humans can be very interesting as a tale. However, even I still don't know when that adventure stops being an adventure. My old friend, who is now gone, once said that a human's life is an adventure from beginning to end, so there is never a correct time to set down one's pen. I do not agree. I think must one put away the pen at some point. Me too. I believe one should write a tale to an appropriate point, then leave the aftertaste and opinions to the mind of the spectators. In short, the tale must be put inside a cat box at the appropriate time. The cat box has been the subject of this long tale, so is it not better to refrain from writing its demise, to instead put it in the cat box and leave it there? Feathern spoke to no one inside this empty study. Of course, no one commented on her words. However, Feathern seemed to hear something. She nodded and grinned contentedly. Yes, I know. I will write a bit further, then lay down my pen. Then it will be time for us to say our goodbyes. Feathern held up a finger and spun it around, a signal that she wanted to darken the room. The lights in the study dimmed. Would you mind letting me rest for a while? During that time, my cat, or rather, my Miko, will entertain you. You suck! Can't you be less clumsy with that needle? Shut up. If you don't want it sewn by hand, I'll use a sewing machine. No, the machines. I want you to do it by hand. So please, let's be a bit more gentle. I'll get better if you spit on it. It'll get better. Yeah. Don't just start licking me all of a sudden. I think this needle should be thick enough. This will hurt like hell. We better close your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2. Don't say that right before you start. But despite all this, the two of them truly were close. Though Lambda Delta had been brutally dismembered in the final fight, she had survived. But, unfortunately, she was still dismembered. So, Burncastle was sewing her arms and head back on with a needle and thread. The left arm, which was still waiting to be reattached, walked around on the bed impatiently with its index and middle fingers. Only the arms were left to do, so it looked like this would be finished soon. Then Erica returned, slamming the door open. I'm home, my master. I bought some sesame salt. Why sesame salt? You aren't planning to put it in tea, are you? It's Erica's toy. Erica, did you bring your chopsticks? Yes, my master. Great detectives have their magnifying glasses. Fruta Erica has her chopsticks. You even had it on your pirate hat. Are you ready? Pour out the sesame salt and use those chopsticks to separate the sesame seeds from the salt. Yes, my master. Please watch my fantastic chopstick-wielding skills. Yeah, good luck. When you're done, make sure you put everything back in the bag. Are you still bullying her like that? How rude. I'm playing with her. Ah, yes, Erica. The mailman just came by with a letter addressed to you. A letter? I sense a crime calling to me. Don't tell me. I'll guess who sent it. The postmark is from heaven. It's probably from Dylanor or someone. I'm surprised you're still in touch. Just by the presence of this postmark, see how far Burncastle's reasoning has taken her. Hey, you can't do that, my master. Van Dyne's nice. It's forbidden to have multiple detectives. Then you'd better get out. So long, great Detective Erica. Master, how could you? America, witch of truth. I still can't tell if you two like each other or hate each other. Of course we hate each other. You're the only one I love. How could you, my master? Lady Lambda Delta, it looks like there's not enough room for the two of us. Are you serious? Are you challenging the great Lambda Delta? Erica grinned and grabbed Lambda Delta's left arm, which had been walking around the bed. I have here Lady Lambda Delta's arm, and here's a sliced open end of her arm. Erica grinned and wiggled her fingers menacingly. Wait, you aren't thinking. Let's see if my rifle can handle this. Stop it, that tickles. She tickled the inside of Lambda Delta's left arm. Apparently, she was extremely ticklish there. How would one find that out? Incidentally, the open end of Lambda Delta's arm had cute, fluffy, white cotton candy poking out. Apparently, her body was made out of sweet candy, with a bit of spice thrown in. Put your mind at ease, as there is nothing remotely terrifying about this scene. Okay. Erica ran around, screaming, I've defeated Lady Lambda Delta all by myself, just like my master. Lambda Delta growled and hissed at her. Burncastle kept on sewing, an exasperated look on her face. Oh, hello, Doxylamine. Welcome, welcome. We're in the middle of something bizarre. Burncastle kept on sewing, an exasperated look on her face. It was a very peaceful scene. So, what does the letter say? Anything about what Dylan or the others have been up to? Gertrude-san has been promoted to a full inquisitor or something. Well, good for her. Yay. Oh, in addition to her cat, she's got a meow wolf now too. What's a meow wolf? What? You don't know? You're so out of touch. They've been all the rage lately. Even I got a female meow wolf a few days back. You can make awesome konpeito with them too. I'm totally lost, but I'll make sure I stay far away from your homemade food in the future. Cornelia-san is... Ooh. During an Inquisitor exam, she found that she's really good at fighting, so she started combat training. Pretty hard to imagine her doing that, right? Well, there's all kinds of combat training. What's she doing? You know, just this picture here, in the sentence, well, there's all kinds of combat training. What's she doing? A disembodied head in a floating room with gold. Try to explain this. Looks like kickboxing and Chinese Kenpo. Could that be Eva's influence? And just like, take this picture and upload it with like no context whatsoever. I'll bet she'd fight pretty good standing on one leg. Good point. After all, she's been trained pretty well by a certain someone already. It also mentions Wilson. Ah, there's a surprise. Looks like Wilson hit it big on the foreign exchange market. Now he's living a life of leisure on the income from his real estate investments. Real estate? Sounds like he started playing badminton lately too. I'll bet he has a hellish coach. His butt's probably swollen by now. So what about Delano? As usual, she's stamping things, sealing things, approving things, and sometimes even signing things. She humbly asks us to stir up a crime in her district, since she would get assigned to it personally. Well, why don't we? Crime sounds fun. They say crimes occur wherever the detective goes. One of these days, if I feel like it, I might drop by to bully her. Oh, and there's also something here about that she has her sister corps. Wait, I don't want to hear it all at once. You've got to pause a bit for dramatic effect. Okay, that'll do it. Ah, I finally put my right arm back. Do the left one now, please. Let's have some tea first. Erica, bring in a can of black tea and a pot of dried plums. Yes, my master. With this particular journey over and done with, the Voyager witches rested their wings. It was all so that they could leave on a new journey in search of the next fragment. A short break between trips, backdropped by the pleasant scent of black tea. Where are you going this time? If you go north, I'm heading south. And if you go east, I'm heading west. I hope we can find another charming tale like this one. Next time, I hope you aren't playing the villain again, Burn. You do? Being the bad guy was pretty fun. I wonder, what kind of tale we'll find next? What kind of tale we'll next meet in? To a pair of lovers, the sea of fragments is tiny. Children of paradise. The sea of fragments is pretty huge. Ghost in the shell. We'll meet again when something else cries. Sounds good. Let's do that. We will meet again when something else cries. The happy voices of the witches faded into the distance. Happy, huh? So long, everyone. See you again when something else cries. Well, I would honestly, personally, I would stay away from that pretty far. Things get weird when witches get involved. Addition of new elements has been added. You can find this new feature on the title screen. Alright, we got half hour. See if we can fit this in there. Or if it'll be another story in a story type thing. I don't know. After decades. The Angie Novelist. It was the largest banquet hall in this huge hotel. The many guests that filled the room chattered and applauded the person receiving an award trophy on top of the stage. The sign in front of it said, "Award Ceremony for Japan's Greatest Publishers." And now, I would like to begin the novel category. The winner is that fantasy adventure novel we all know so well. The story that started a worldwide movement that continues to grow in leaps and bounds. Sakutaro's Great Adventure. Shit. The projector in front of the audience showed a brief summary of the series. It was a lengthy fantasy adventure novel that was already more than 8 installments long. Getting pretty meta here. The thrilling fantasy story told of the adventures of Sakutaro, a cowardly Vegeta lion who made friends, learns through his experiences, and grows in search of the one fragment. The main character's catchphrase, "I'll become the king of the beasts," was even one of the candidates for the Buzzwords of the Year award. In addition to being a thrill to read, the books also contained many messages for children to learn from, earning it high praise as an adventure novel that parents and kids could enjoy reading together. However, it hadn't received such praise from the beginning. For the first 6 volumes, it went almost entirely unnoticed. But last year, when foreign translations of the series began, it got its big break and suddenly became a huge topic of conversation. Even before the series, the author had created quite a lot of works, but none of those achieved any public acclaim. However, after this sudden rise in notoriety, her previous works were being reevaluated one after another. In that sense, it's probably fair to call her an author who went unrecognized for quite a long time. Getting really meta. Miss Kotobuki, congratulations on your award. Your latest Sakutaro Goes to the Witch Island was truly an excellent read. Publishing company executives repeatedly showered her with praise. Sakutaro's Great Adventure. The author's name was Kotobuki Yukari. Nearly all of her royalties were sent to a fund to support needy children, and she herself had served as a director at several protective institutions. Some envious people tried to call this fake charity, but the more that people learned about her, the more those voices withered and died away. Kotobuki Yukari. By now that name rang loud and clear across Japan. She sat in a chair, cheerfully chatting with the people who came to greet her. Last year, she was diagnosed with the initial stages of cancer, and after the surgery, her physical strength dropped sharply. Because of this, even in the stand-up awards party, she was given a chair and sat down while greeting people. Some people lamented, saying that if only she had been 20, even 10 years younger, she might have left her mark in history as one of the greatest authors in the 21st century. It had taken so long for her to receive the praise she deserved. She could no longer be called young. Even so, her determination to write had not wavered in the slightest. The story had gone around that, even during her stay in the hospital, most of her time had been spent typing away. She always said the same thing. That she hadn't finished telling everything she needed to tell. Did she mean that she hadn't fully completed Sakataro's great adventure? When that question was asked by a journalist, this is how she answered. If, by writing even one more book, I can teach just one more child how to find happiness, then I will spend the rest of my life writing every book, every page that I can, because I still haven't fully conveyed the precious teachings I was given. Miss Kotobuki, congratulations on your award. I hear the movie's adaptation has been getting splendid reviews as well. If you keep this up, you might even pass up Harry Potter's record. Harry the Potato. It was the name of a fantasy series that had become a worldwide hit. Thank you very much for your kind words. It's more than I deserve. Oh, I forgot to tell you. My name is X, head of Company X's first editorial department. It is an honor to meet you. I hope we have a chance to work together sometime. Actually, Miss Kotobuki, I apologize for being abrupt, but have you heard of the novelist known as Hachijo Toya? Hachijo Toya, you say? She remembered that name from several decades ago. She hadn't expected to ever hear it again. Do you know that name? Have you met Hachijo by any chance? No, I have not. I did go visit once, but I was unknown back then. And since I suddenly barged into this publishing company office, it's hardly surprising that I was refused an interview. Oh, I didn't know that. Could it be that you're a fan of Hachijo's work? No, I just wanted to find out what sort of person she was. I see. Well, the truth is, about that novelist, Hachijo Toya would like to meet with you discreetly. To meet with me? Yes. Not as a formal interview, but personally, off the record. If you're interested, we would be happy to arrange the meeting. But of course, this has nothing to do with work. Hachijo Toya wants to meet Kotobuki Yukari. Just like how I realized that Itoi Kuro was Hachijo Toya, did she use my name to figure out my identity? The Rokkenjima mystery has been called one of the greatest social phenomena at the turn of the century. That uproar, which dragged in enthusiasts from across the world, suddenly subsided after an event held by Hachijo Toya, where she was going to unveil the diary of Ushimi Iba, which contained the truth. Though she had set up the events herself, she then outrageously disappeared without releasing the contents of the diary, drawing harsh criticism for doing so. However, a very, very obvious feeling had been revived in the public sphere, that they had been prying into a terrible accident with many victims purely out of curiosity. And so, the frenzy surrounding the Rokkenjima mystery had faded away quietly. Hachijo Toya. No, Itoi Kukuru. She caught the public eye as a forger of Rokkenjima mysteries. She claimed to have reached the truth and released groundbreaking works of fiction one after another. She became famous as the driving force behind the Rokkenjima mystery. After realizing that Itogi Kukuru was Hachijo Toya, I went to her publishing company to ask for an interview, but I didn't get one. At the time, I despised her. Back in the beginning, I thought she might have used the Rokkenjima mystery as a publicity stunt to advance herself, but now I feel a bit grateful to her. If she hadn't refused to show the diary in such an outrageous way, the Rokkenjima catbox might still be the playthings of countless ghosts. She was indeed a forger who had toyed with the catbox, and I still had an uneasy feeling about her. However, at the same time, she was the one who, practically speaking, allowed Rokkenjima to rest in peace. And did she really reach the truth? How had she reached something that seemed infinitely close to the truth, even from my perspective? Even now, after all these years, that's something I've wanted to know. What do you think, Miss Kotobuki? Of course, this is not an urgent request. I was told to tell you to take your time in making a decision if you wish. I understand. Does Hachijo Toya live near the city? I was told that a meeting near here would be satisfactory at any time. I see. In that case, can I ask you to arrange a meeting for us in a quiet coffee shop next Sunday? Yes, as you wish. Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe Hachijo will be delighted as well. I have one condition. Yes, whatever you say. I'm not going to discuss business, so please refrain from sending anyone from the editing department. But of course, we will do as you say. Madam Hachijo and I will meet alone, just the two of us. Can I count on you to keep that promise? Well, as to that, we would appreciate it if you kept this quiet, but what is it? Well, the truth is, the works of Hachijo Toyo were written by two people. To the outside world, those books were written by a single female author. But there is actually a second author, a male one. The pair of them asked for a chance to meet you. As soon as I heard that, I felt a premonition. How had Hachijo Toya, a person with no connection to the Ushimiya family, managed to write about it in such detail? I was already feeling a premonition of a certain kind of miracle. When I left on my journey, I abandoned the name of Ushimiya Anji and stepped into a new life. By now, things have settled down, but when the Sumadera family was still a threat, I wanted to distance myself from that name. Thanks to that, no one was able to get in touch with the new me anymore. However, now that Sakutaro's adventure has caught the public eye this year and made the name of Kotobuki Yukari famous, maybe it finally reached his ears. I used to play with a lion stuffed animal called Sakutaro, along with Maria One-chan. If those who knew this connected the name Sakutaro with my name, then it's only natural that they'd figure out who I was. The number of people who would be able to recognize me from that was very, very small. This person was also well versed in detective novels, and a man. I could only think of one person who matched. After all, I knew just how many detective novels he had piled up in his room from the time when his effects were gone through. It was almost the time we had arranged for our meeting. My heart was racing, almost like a girl in love for the first time. At the very instant that the arranged time came, I heard the sound of the chime on the door, and they appeared. At the very instant that the arranged time came, I heard the sound of the chime on the door, and they appeared. It was a man sitting on a wheelchair, and a woman pushing him. My eyes immediately fixed on the man in the wheelchair, and, right away, I saw the traces that remained on his face. There's no doubt about it. He's my brother, I called it. My brother, Ushimiya Battler. When our eyes met, he gave a little bow. I hurried to my feet and bowed back. It was a somewhat exaggerated and silly way for a pair of siblings to greet each other after several decades apart. However, my mind was already blank. The miracle I had waited for all this time was now a reality. Are you Miss Kotobuki Yukari? Yes, I am. And you must be Hachijo Toya. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for letting us borrow your precious time today. My name is Hachijo Ikuku. I am mostly in charge of the actual writing. This is Toya. He mostly handles the drafting. Though the woman who called herself Ikuko was far older than me, she seemed to be unbelievably youthful. It wasn't because she was good with makeup or dresses like a younger woman. It feels strange to say it. There was a strange mystique about her, as though she was immortal and never aging. Then I quickly remembered that she introduced my brother as Toya. Pardon me for asking, but are you two married? We are not married, but we have been together for a long time. True. Looking back on it, it really has been a long time. My brother smiled as he spoke. When I learned that, at least for him, those long decades had been a period of isolation and loneliness, I felt an incredible sense of peace and relief. Before I knew it, he was staring back into my face. Well, I was just 6 years old the last time we met. Must be hard for him to find any traces he can recognize. However, I'm sure he'll recognize something, just the same. We kept stealing glances at each other and looking away, like a couple on a blind date. We were both at an age where outside appearances mattered to us. Even though we both knew, we wouldn't let our polite exterior falter. This humorous exchange was extremely embarrassing. I thought it would be a fated reunion, that we would hold each other and sob tears of gratitude together. However, reality seemed to be different. That's fine. It feels like my heart will explode with happiness. Let's take our orders. Is coffee okay? What does everyone want? I prefer something that isn't so bitter. How about you, Miss Kotobuki? Oh, I don't mind. I guess I'll have cafe au lait. How stiff we're all being. Even my brother seemed to be finding it amusing by now. Well now. When she said that, my brother and I fell silent and sat up straight. Should I start? Or will we start with you, Toya? I'll go first. I'm the one who pushed so hard for this meeting after all. As he spoke, he watched me calmly. I came here today thinking that you might be a certain person. Her name is Ushimiya Anji. When I read your works and heard your name, I was sure that you were her. That's right. How long it's been since I last used that name. My true name is Ushimiya Anji. I gave the exaggerated bow that I'd gotten used to these long years. We've both aged, haven't we, Oni-chan? I whispered this in my heart. Now it was my turn. With a quick apology, I fished around in my handbag and took out a photo. It was a picture from a trip I'd taken to an amusement park with Battler Oni-chan. I had many other pictures of us having a good time, but this one had the best shot of his face. I looked between him and the photo. There was no longer any room for doubt. Mr. Toya, Your true name is Ushimiya Battler-san, isn't it? The hands of the clock inside me stopped. I wanted him to answer with a yes. Even though I was already so sure, I was still about to burst with attention. And then, when that instant seemed far too long ended, my brother answered. That's right. Unconsciously, I stared at my brother's face. With unbelievable quickness, he acknowledged that he was Ushimiya Battler. My eyes immediately filled and overflowed with tears. I took out a handkerchief and wiped them away, but I couldn't hold them back. Oni-chan was alive after all. So why didn't he come back to me right away? If he had been there during my darkest days, it would have meant so much to me. Normally, the thought would have made me curse my brother, but by now even that emotion was softened. After all, now that I was faced with the miracle of being reunited with Oni-chan, everything I'd felt before fell away with my tears. At this moment, I was happy. I was never alone. I worked so hard for decades with that belief in my heart, and now I've finally been rewarded. By now, I couldn't even stop my tears. For some time, I continued to sob and sniffle. Watching this, my brother hung his head apologetically. Why didn't he come back to me sooner? It looked as though he was feeling regret for that. But I'm sure he had some sort of reason. He's probably here today to tell me about it and apologize. Already, just by him introducing himself to me today, everything inside of me has been washed clean with tears. I'm sorry. I must be embarrassing you. No, it's only to be expected. For several decades, you've been waiting all alone, believing that your family would return. I did believe. I believed you would come home, Oni-chan. I held out my hand weakly, and my brother slowly held his out too. Then I gripped his hand. Regardless of how many long years had passed, it was, without a doubt, my brother's hand. Once more I had to struggle to hold back the tears. Aunt Eva avoided the explosion accident by escaping to Kuwadorian. How did you escape the accident, Oni-san? On that day, I escaped to the underground passage. The one that goes to Kuwadorian? I was told that an underground passage led to the hidden mansion on the opposite side of the island. However, the place we escaped to was a submarine base, not Kuwadorian. I don't know why my brother entered the underground passage on that day. At any rate, he went into the underground passage, and unlike Aunt Eva, he escaped to the submarine base. There, he escaped the explosion and survived. After that, I got away on a motorboat. However, it must have capsized somewhere along the way. It must have? Please forgive him. Toya suffers from memory loss. His memory from around the time he was drowning in the ocean is hazy. Could it be that he forgot he was Ushimiya Battler for a while? That is correct. Yes, that explains nearly all of the riddles. My brother escaped from the explosion, but either his boat capsized during his escape from the island, or he fell overboard. Afterwards, he must have drifted somewhere, wandered about half-conscious, and probably got into a traffic accident. On that day, he was lying on the road. If she had found me even a little later, I probably wouldn't have opened my eyes again. I believe you suspected that I was the one who hit you for quite some time. I've already apologized for that. This explains pretty much everything. Either because of the time he nearly drowned, or because of the traffic accident, my brother's memory was damaged. His memory probably came back eventually. However, by that time, I had already set foot into my new life as Kotobuki Yukari. Only a handful of people, including President Okunogi, knew where I was. Even if my brother wanted to contact me, there was a very good chance that he wouldn't be able to. Ironically, the name I abandoned when I decided to live in the future delayed my reunion with my brother for so long. In that sense, I am responsible. I did it to myself. However, I'm sure I received the message my brother sent me. That message was Itoi Kukuru. I realized that Itoi Kukuru, the forger who claimed to have reached the truth, was actually Hachijo Toya. Then I requested a meeting with her through the publishing company to question her about why she was so sure she'd reached the truth. However, I wasn't granted a meeting. In the end, I heard nothing from them, and it's taken all these decades for me to meet Hachijo Toya. If the publishing company had only passed my message on, we could have been reunited so much sooner. However, at the time, I was just a bourgeois girl who liked to throw money around. Why would they pass on my message when I just barged in with no introduction and demanded to meet the famous and popular Hachijo Toya? We probably crossed paths several times. If just one of those had worked out, if we had been able to meet, just how much would my life have changed? But this was fate. God had decided that a few decades were needed before the sibling reunion. And during that time, my brother became one half of a mystery novelist. I became a writer of adventure novels for children. You could say that we achieved success in society. My brother and I were reunited after becoming successful. Now, I could do nothing but thank God for bringing about this miracle. Maybe it was God's will that we would be reunited after achieving success as novelists. Back then, I was nameless, so I never got through to you. We've met now because we've both become famous as authors. I think all of this was God's will. At the time, we heard through the publishing company that you wanted to have an interview with us. They said that a fan who discovered Itoi Kukuru's true identity wanted to talk to her. You must have had dozens of fans dying for an interview. You couldn't possibly go to meet all of them. No. They let us know that your name was Ushumiya Angie. At the time, I had already realized that Toya's true name was Ushumiya Battler, so I thought you should be given a chance to meet him. I refused. My brother said that to me. What did you say? I refused because I didn't want to meet you. Once more, my brother spoke clearly. I was completely confused. I could only sit there in shock and silence, waiting for the words that were sure to follow. I believe I already mentioned that Toya suffered from memory loss. And then, one day... Why did you refuse when you knew it was me? I cut through Ikuku's words and questioned him directly. What reason could my brother have for rejecting me? I couldn't think of anything. That unpleasant emotion brought up long-forgotten feelings of anger inside me. You must have known that your little sister was living all alone, being crushed by loneliness. So why? Why did you refuse to meet me? My brother hung his head. It seemed more like he was lost for words than apologetic. There was nothing shy about his appearance, and I questioned him again in an even louder voice. When I asked for an appointment with Hachijo Toya, Itoi Kukuru was already famous as a forger. Why did Itoi Kukuru's forgeries reach the truth? It's obvious. My brother, Ushumiya Battler, explained to her what happened on the island in detail. So, the appearance of Itoi Kukuru proves that my brother's memory had returned. Therefore, he can't excuse himself by saying that he didn't remember me. In fact, in reality, he didn't try to make excuses. On the contrary, he openly said that he refused to meet me, even though he knew who I was. Looking back, I regret what I did. Did you regret it? Did you even try to think about how I felt? For decades, for most of my life. Do you realize what feelings I had to live with? Various emotions swirled inside of me. I realized that I wasn't in control of them anymore. I could only moan to prevent myself from saying something I'd regret. I feel deeply ashamed for doing something so cruel to you. That's why I've searched for you ever since then. For your sake, and for mine, I should have met you much earlier. Then why? Won't you meet me then? Miss Kotobuki, as I said before, his memory was damaged. No. Perhaps I should say that his brain was damaged. It's an after effect of the accident. But his memory came back just the same, didn't it? Yes, his memory came back. However, that did not remove the after effects of the damage. I have Ushimiya Battler's memories. However, because of the damage to my brain, I can't think of those as my own. Can't think of those as your own? Yes. It's true that my memory of my escape from the island is still hazy. However, I've remembered almost everything else. Like how those pink hair ornaments of yours that you treasure so much, or something I won for you at the game corner in that amusement park. Yes, that's right. They're a treasure from when I was a child. I still keep them with me in my handbag. I remember a lot more besides that. I remember you giving Mom trouble because you hated eating seaweed. I remember that you tried to move it to my plate and trick her. And when... If you remember that much, then why can't you think of those memories as your own? That's the result of the damage to my brain. I've been to several hospitals, but it didn't do any good. You probably can't understand it. You can't know how painful it is to have your mind suddenly filled with the memories of a man you don't know. He was terrified that he wasn't himself anymore. His mind was filled with the memories of a man he didn't recognize, and they threatened to crush and overwhelm him. They must have been his own lost memories. However, his brain couldn't accept those as his own. Those days were painful, terrifying. It felt like my mind was being invaded. Tonight, when I turn off the lights and go to sleep, maybe I will never wake up again. Maybe a different man will wake up tomorrow morning and start living life in my body. I can't count the nights that this terror tormented me. Several times he tried to convince himself that they were his real memories. He told himself that he was Ushimiya Battler over and over again. But nothing worked. I am me, Hachiyo Toya. No matter how much Ushimiya Battler's memories flow into my mind, to me, they're the memories of another person. I couldn't accept Ushimiya Battler. As Ushimiya Battler said this, he hung his head and his eyes turned red. Then, one day, when he was caught between himself and the other self he couldn't accept, he had a fit. Fortunately, his life was spared, but the after effects forced him to spend his life in a wheelchair. You mean, he... Now I know why he showed up in that wheelchair. And now I know why he refused to meet with me. He was afraid that I would call him Big Brother. He was terrified of meeting me, fearful that the part of himself that wasn't him would grow still further in his mind. Even so, he fought. He felt that since Ushimiya Battler was inside him, it was his responsibility to meet you. Thinking that, he kept on fighting in the space between his two selves. And then, he had a fit. After something like that, it was only natural that Ikuko would tell him that he didn't need to remember Ushimiya Battler anymore. Bit by bit, he tried to forget that he was once Ushimiya Battler. Doctors, instructions, and medication. With that and Ikuko's diligent care, he slowly began to regain his peace of mind. Even so, I thought I would have to meet you sooner or later. To be honest, I didn't get a wink of sleep last night. I was scared of meeting you. If I met you, would I die? Yes, I was afraid. However, here I am, talking to you normally. That's why I regret what I did. If only I could have met with you earlier. You and the Ushimiya Battler inside of me might not have had to suffer for all those years. Just thinking that makes me feel so sorry. As the one who was once Ushimiya Battler said this, he broke down crying. I already understood. So, it really was true. Ushimiya Battler did die that day. After all, didn't the witches say that he was dead so often with the red truth? How pathetic for the witch of Ressurection, the witch of the future who swore that everyone would be together always. Toya-san, please raise your head. Miss Kotobuki. They realized why I had called him Toya-san. By calling him by that name, I myself felt the agitation in my heart subside a little. Thank you. You must have suffered so much. Thank you, Mr. Toya. Thank you, Nisan. Thanks for pushing yourself so hard to come here today. Holding hands, we brought our foreheads close and cried together for a while. Then we talked of the old days. He remembered many things vividly, even things that I couldn't remember myself. Each time he made me cry even harder, and he hung his head apologetically. I realized how much this hurt him, so I kept nodding in encouragement with a strange look on my face, something between a sob and a smile. Even if he isn't Ushimiya Battler, my Oni-chan came back to me. Welcome home, Oni-chan. I don't know if I should keep going or call it a day. I don't know how long this is. Let's keep going. At least for a little longer. I still got some time. It had already gotten dark outside. Even though he had come from far away, he was willing to stay as late as this. We left the store. It's probably best if I don't meet with Mr. Toya again. It will cause him pain, and of course, I'll find myself bound to the past again. Even so, just one more time. There was one place I felt I had to show him. Mr. Toya, would you mind meeting me just one last time? There's a place I feel I need to show you. Sure, I don't mind. From my handbag, I pulled an invitation written on a folded up piece of A4 paper. The pair of them spread it out. My. Oh, this looks like a splendid event. Come to think of it, you've been involved in a lot of things besides novels, haven't you? Would you lend me your time just once more on that day? That way, I think both me and my brother will be satisfied. I think it might also be a chance for you to free yourself from the weight of my brother's memory, Mr. Toya. I don't believe we have any plans for then, as long as we can finish the afterword for the book. Okay, Miss Kotobuki. We'd be happy to join you. Thank you, Mr. Toya. The cold October night was a reminder that winter was approaching. The two people who called themselves Hachijo Toya visited the city once again by Angie's invitation. A car stopped in front of a large building. Ikuko unfolded the wheelchair with a practiced hand, lent a shoulder to Toya as he got out of the passenger seat, and helped him to the chair. It looks splendid. The Fukuin house. It's my first time coming here, but I know it well. I believe it's the institution for children that was funded by the Ushimiya family. Madam Ikuko, Mr. Toya, allow us to welcome you to the Fukuin house. They were welcomed by Angie and some staff members. Yeah, it's the end, so we'll see. This was the Fukuin house, a welfare institution for unfortunate children who had lost their parents. In the past, this institution had been established thanks to Ushimiya Kinzo's support. However, that support had been interrupted, and the Fukuin house had been forced to shut down for a time. Decades passed, and now the institution would be revived by the hand of Kotobuki Yukari. It's a pleasure to see you again, Miss Kotobuki. Thank you for inviting us. The two of us want you to have this. It's not much, but I hope the children enjoy it. That's not the reason I invited you here. My apologies. Don't worry about that. The tales of the future are always woven by children. After all, without them, the tale of humans will not continue. Children are treasures, sometime. So please, let this be useful. Thank you very much. We have a form for donations, so if it isn't too much trouble. The Fukuin house had been drastically remodeled in recent years, in the hopes that children would one day be able to remember this as a fun place. Angie used her own money to massively remodel it into a beautiful establishment. By now, she had accumulated a lot of wealth as a novelist, but even without that, she had been saving the tens of millions of yen she got from the Ushimiya group each year under the name of living expenses. This money had been used generously to help the children. Yeah, children are treasures, but they can be buttheads a lot. When they came into the entrance hall, a cheerful scene was spread before them. There were pictures and crafts created by the children. Every corner was filled with things on display. The contrast between this elegant building and the school atmosphere was amusing. The yells and laughter of kids running around drifted in from the distance. I imagine that many of the children come here, hanging their heads in sorrow. To think that they could laugh like that. You really have done something great. Anyone can use magic to create a future and find their fragment of happiness. This is a witch's school for teaching that magic. The witch's dormitory from Sakutaro's Great Adventure? How embarrassing. So you've read it too. We read straight through. We read straight through it right after our last meeting. I really must bow my head, not only to your talent as a writer, but to your warm heart. Oh, embarrassing. This way, straight to the end. Pushing Toya's wheelchair, we advanced to the corridor and reached the great doors at the end. The happy voices of children came from the other side. Apparently, this is where tonight's party was being held. There were several jack-o'-lanterns cut out of origami. Tonight was the Fukuin House's Halloween party. Here you are, Mr. Toya. I see. So it's trick-or-treat? Trick-or-treato. He was handed a bag filled with candy. A teacher warned him in a small voice to watch out for rampaging children. See, buttheads. Children. Haven't had anything to do with them for years. Please tell the children stories of dreams. All of us welcome guests here. It's tricky. What should I tell them? You're handing in your manuscript. Choose your publishing company wisely. Don't pay any attention to reader polls. Then I'll open the doors. The children are waiting. And you open the large double doors. This is... At the side of the hall, Toya opened his mouth in wide-eyed shock. This was the great hall of the Ushimiya mansion. No, that's impossible. This is definitely the Fukuin house. But its hall was just like the one in Rakanjima mansion. What a splendid hall. This is a replica of the hall in Ushimiya mansion on Rakanjima. Yes, I've reproduced it as well as my memory would let me. The details might be wrong, though. No, this really is the hall of the Ushimiya family mansion on that day. And then Toya's eyes fixed on something at the other side of the room. It was a portrait. A portrait of Rakanjima's other master. It's exactly the same as my memories. The artist hired by Ushimiya Kinzo to paint the portrait had a photo. I had him draw it again, based on that. I was simply frozen in shock. The long, large table was filled with Halloween party food and surrounded with children stuffing themselves. The teacher said, "Everyone, we have guests." The children all looked at us at once, then stood up and ran forward. Their broad smile at the arrival of this long-awaited guest enveloped me. The smiles and eyes of the children welcomed me. Yeah, I know. I know all your faces. It's been so long, far too long. I'm finally here, at last. Welcome home, sir. You took your time. We have been waiting for you. Welcome home, Battler. Welcome home. You doing well? Battler too? Oh, you're looking well? Welcome home. William? Welcome home, Battler. We've all been waiting for you. Oh, Battler-san. The guest of honor has finally arrived. Welcome home, sir. Welcome home, sir. Lord Battler. Welcome home, Battler-sama. Welcome home. Hey, took your time, Battler. You kept us waiting way too long. You've been waiting, Battler-kun. So you're finally here. We've been waiting. Welcome home, Lord Battler. I salute you, Lord Battler. You okay? Congratulations. Oni-chan, welcome home. You've kept me waiting, Battler. I'm sorry. I showed up pretty late. What are you doing sitting in a wheelchair like that? Come on, I'll give you a hand. So straighten up. Yeah, it's just that easy. Just Beto stepped forward and held out a hand to Battler as he sat in the wheelchair. Battler slowly grasped that hand and rose to his feet. Listen, all of us are finally here. Tonight, the Golden Line will be resurrected in this place. Fukatsuru. An explosive applause greeted Battler. Everyone was there. Everyone. Then Beto hugged Battler, strongly, tightly, as though she would never let him go. It is truly amazing that you made it back. I'm home. Sorry I took so long. I won't let go again. Yeah. I'm not letting go either. We'll be together for all eternity. Well, there we go. I believe that's the end, right? Sure feels like it, but you never know with this game. So there we go. That is the ending of Umineko. There still might be something at the end, so we gotta watch all the way. But internet's holding out so far. I still got a bit of time left before it gets weird. But yeah, so that has been a very long story. But it has definitely been an adventure for me. Very roundabout and tangential, but an interesting one nonetheless. I'm honestly quite glad I read it. Though, if I'm being honest, I am also being relieved that it's over. It's been a long story. But yeah, it's interesting. And hell, it's fascinating how just life works its way. I started this channel making clothes for dolls. That's literally what I started the channel for. And now here I am reading a story that was suggested by a viewer, and it's led me to start painting. And that painting has led me to move to Texas. At least in part. And so it's just always so impressive how just like life, all these little things, completely, totally unrelated, end up working together, leading towards a future of the future, unknown and unpredictable. And I appreciate being on that ride. It's really cool, seeing all the twists and turns, and then just sitting and appreciating it. But man, this is a long story. Sick painting, to be honest. Oh, well, thank you. Seiko. Yeah, it's been working on it for a while. It's, as you've been seeing as in the story, there's quite a few of them. It's this one over here has been like redone and refigured for different chapters and stories. So it's like Beatrice, the original, Beatrice the Elder, Erica, Eva, Will, and Leon, Battler, There's like at least 6 paintings of it. Umineko no Nakokoto Nichiro, Nocturne of Truths and Illusions. 7th expansion / Alchemist. So. I offer up this tale to my beloved witch, Beatrice. And that's why you stay to the end. Addition of new features. The Golden Witch has prepared a gift for you in commemoration of your stay. You can find these new features on the title screen. More? I bet it's the title page. I guess. Oh, now we got a music box and some tips, I guess. But that will be it for today. Thank you everybody for going on this very long journey. It's been quite impressive, and I'm so very glad I went on it. Met a lot of people, met a lot of interesting adventures. It's quite literally shaped my life for the better, I think. Anyway, take care, guys. I gotta get out of here, eat some breakfast, and do some other things. So long, guys, and don't ever give up hope.